Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm making that beautiful milk bread that you saw earlier. I've been meaning to make it for a long time and I finally got around to doing it, and it was also like a million times easier, so kind of glad I started it. I'm using Inga Lamb's recipe, and I'll have it linked down below in my comment in the description, so you can go ahead and follow that along. She has a YouTube video and she has a written recipe on her website, which is great. The written recipe is where I got all the measurements from, and why I'm measuring out the flour, as you can see. A lot of the other ingredients are measured out: the milk, water, butter, sugar, and yeast. So not a super complicated recipe. I know there are some recipes that have you using dry milk and or powdered milk, I guess you could say, and there's like a multiple step process. You have to create this like separate like starter and then add into the bread. This recipe was super straightforward, which I loved. So I'm just sifting the flour to get out all those nice clumps, and then using a spoon to get that last bit of it. I just use a really nice, like, accurate scale, nothing too fancy, just something that'll let you get to grams. So whatever you have is fine. I also let my butter sit out for a little bit so it's a little bit soft, and I'm just cubing it right here. I noticed some people like to also shave their butter so that it's like really thin and integrates really well. Personally, it's up to you how you want to do it. This recipe, when I was watching the video, her mom was mixing in the sugar, salt, and yeast first separately in different pockets of flour and then all together. I thought this was really an interesting take on mixing all the dry ingredients. I'd literally never seen this done before. I'm sure there are other people doing it, but I've just never seen it. And so I just did that and then mixed it all together. It was, relatively easy from that perspective. I think one of the biggest things about this recipe that I really didn't anticipate was how much kneading was going to be involved. And I say this as somebody who has a hand mixer and not a stand mixer. I severely underestimated it. I thought I could just go in with my hands and, really just develop that gluten as much as it needed to be. And don't get me wrong, you definitely can. But I literally was there for like 20-30 minutes trying to knead it. And after a while, I was just like, you know what, I give up. I'm going to just figure this out with a stand mixer. Second time I did that, it was just a million times easier. Anyway, here I am starting to mix it all together. We put in all the ingredients except the butter, and we left some water out so that it's not too wet of a dough. And so I'm just kind of putting everything together. It seems a little dry now, but you'll be surprised at how well it starts to come together. And also note, when the butter goes in, that's going to add a little bit of moisture as well. You'll be surprised at how much it gets picked up. Like, you see, I didn't add any other dry ingredients, and this is just how it went in. I did make the mistake here of not kneading it enough before putting in the butter. And the second time I made it, when I kind of kneaded it a lot longer and then put in the butter, I noticed a huge difference in how the bread came out. I think the first time it came out pretty good, but it wasn't as fluffy as I would like. And I think a big component of that is when you allow the butter to kind of get in between whatever gluten has developed, when you first knead it without it, it helps kind of expand it and I think make it a little bit crispier than what I originally did. So, first time, not a huge deal. Technically, I was still able to get to that texture, but I noticed it was a million times better when I just, kneaded a little bit first and then added the butter. So as you can see, I am just going at it, and I literally had to like 10 times speed this because it was taking so long to knead this thing. And, I was like, okay, cool, I'm making decent progress. And I would go and do that little window pane test thing where, I'm kind of stretching up the dough and seeing if it's see-through. Oh my gosh. I literally underestimated it. It felt like, oh, okay, cool, I'm making progress, and you can see it's getting smoother, but girl, it was not going anywhere. I was frustrated. So eventually I broke off the stand mixer. At this point I was like overwhelmed. I was pissed off. I was like, I just want this bread to be done, because at this point I just haven't even gone to any of the proofing yet. I needed to, section out the bread and let it proof in between those. It was just a hot mess from the get-go. But even for doing it by hand, I feel like I did pretty okay, because when we did the stand mixer or the hand mixer, I only needed to run it for like maybe a minute or two, and then it was done. So I think I had gotten pretty far, but it definitely would have taken longer. I took a little Yakult break because I was, as you can see, very frazzled and dead. But this is the end. After I did all the stand mixing stuff, it's so smooth. It's like a little baby. Went and covered her up. The bowl is a little oiled, and I just let it proof for 45 minutes. Now, I didn't show me sectioning these out and the few proofs that were in between, but I did a first section. I balled it, let it sit for 10 minutes, and I made sure I weighed these out so they were about the same size. Here I am doing that like first round of, oh no, this is actually the second round of rolling it out. So I had even skipped that step. The second round of rolling it out, and this is where I'm really stretching it out. I really wanted to do some nice tight rolls, and this is what kind of gets all of those nice layers happening, right? It's kind of that similar concept that you apply when you're making croissants, right? You want like nice tight layers so that you get that nice flakiness, right? Honestly, the dough is pretty stretchy at this point, so getting it stretched out was a bit of a hassle. It did require me holding one end and then kind of rolling it out. I did have a French rolling bin. I couldn't find it, so I just used a regular one. And so, as you can see, they get pretty thick, even for how much you roll them out, how tight they are. But yeah, this was nice. The second time I did it, I think I was a little too aggressive with the dough, so it was a bit tighter. But you can see these are nice and pillowy. They're still really nice and airy, and tons of great elasticity. You can tell the gluten has developed really, really well because it has that bit of kind of pushback, which is kind of what we're looking for, right? With our bread flour. So here I am putting in the tin, all three of them next to each other, and just kind of letting them rise. First, I covered it with like a that little plastic wrap that I used beforehand when I was first letting it proof. That was perfect for being able to see it go up to about 80%, so you can see they're all evenly spaced out. Did a little spritz of water too before that little seal. And once it was at 80%, I covered it up with the lid so it could proof the rest of the way. Once that was happening, oh, see, there you can see that nice 80%. So this is where you put on that lid. And the lid is going to be really important here because you want that pushback before you bake. So after the bake, oh my gosh, you guys, look at her. She's literally stunning. I'm gonna come back and do a quick little ASMR section so you can hear the literal crunch on this bread. It's insane. That crispiness and hollowness was absolutely insane. I just let it cool for a couple hours before I cut it. I've been using this on French toast, avocado toast with just some butter, and it's been amazing. Anyway, thanks for joining me this week, guys. Bye.